All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jason Small, the Executive Secretary of the Montana AFL-CIO, and we're shooting another clip of the Blue Collar News today. And today we're joined by the Montana Food Bank Network CEO Gayle Carlson. So thanks for joining us today, Gayle. To start with, I'm wondering, can you tell folks who the Montana Food Bank Network is and how you help support local food banks in our communities?
Absolutely. Well, the Montana Food Bank Network is a distribution center based out of Missoula. We do the acquisition and distribution of food to about 330 partners. They do the direct distribution to our neighbors. We also do a lot of advocacy work. So we are both working on both the federal and state level to ensure that many of our nutrition programs are stabilized.
Excellent. So it's a statewide effort. I know down here in my area, I see food instability and insecurity quite frequently, but what's it look like across the state? The state? How many families struggle with food insecurities?
Well, as of now, about 1 in 8 Montanans are considered to be food insecure. That's about 140,000 individuals. And included in that is another 40,000 children. About 1 in 6 of the kids in our state are also considered to be food insecure. And basically, food insecurity is the inability to access food on a consistent basis. So this could be a matter of being in a very rural community, and they have miles to go before they can find a grocery store. It can also be income-based. So there's a lot of reasons why people would be food insecure.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough situation. In your experience, who gets the most use out of the food banks, or who uses them generally?
You know, we see it across the border of a lot of different people. We see seniors who are on limited incomes. We see families who maybe have seasonal work that might be working in, farms and ranches. We see individuals that are gainfully employed, but just working in the service industry or have incomes that are significantly lower than the cost of living in their community. So it's not really necessarily a specific individual that you would expect. These are all very hardworking Montanans who just can't make ends meet.
Right. So how many meals do you distribute to local food banks every year?
Well, we did over 16.5 million pounds last year. That comes down to about close to 14 million meals that we distributed to our network partners. And then they, in turn, have additional resources to be able to distribute out to their partners as well.
Oh, wow. And that's just partners in state, right? I mean, that's significant.
Right. Yeah, so we have a network of 330 agencies that we work with. It's food banks and food pantries and shelters, soup kitchens, senior centers, schools. So across the board of all these individuals who work to distribute to our neighbors.
Right. Well, excellent. Thank you for your good work. So we appear to be pretty much to the end of the longest federal shutdown we've ever had. And there's been thousands upon thousands of workers across the state in our communities and whatnot that have been out of work for quite a while, or, working from people who work for paycheck to paycheck generally, and then all of a sudden they didn't get a paycheck. So how has that affected food insecurity in Montana?
Well, the shutdown has just been another kind of path as to what we've been experiencing. If you recall, back in April, we started seeing a lot of federal funding cuts to certain critical programs. One being the TFAP, which is the community or the commodity food program, that got significantly cut. A lot of federal employees were laid off, and we have a lot of federal employees that live in this state. And so we started seeing just a lot of cuts even back then before the government shut down. Ever since then, we've been experiencing a lot of lost wages, furloughs, and now that there's been some SNAP cutoffs as of November 1st, we have seen families coming in that don't have their SNAP benefits anymore. They have started to pay back a few partial benefits, but certainly not enough to sustain them through the month. So there's been this building up of a lot of issues that have occurred because of all the changes in the federal government level that have really impacted the people in our state.
Right. Yeah, it's been something. So we're approaching Thanksgiving here in a few weeks, and Christmas is right around the corner, of course. How does the need normally change this time of year, the need for the food bank assistance? And do you think it's going to get better or worse this year?
Well, during the holidays, we usually do begin to see an uptick of individuals who are needing assistance, not just because of the holiday meals, which is an important part, but also because their expenses become a lot higher. Now they're paying for utilities that are higher than they were during the summer months. During the holiday breaks, their kids are home from school, so they're having to provide meals to them then. So there's just a lot of combinations of expenses that they incur during our winter months that they don't have during the summer months. And of course, they want to experience that same thing of having Thanksgiving and Christmas and those holidays in their family, which is a very expensive process. So we do see our food pantry seeing an increase during that time. And so we kind of step up a lot of the food that we provide to them. We purchased 7 truckloads of turkeys that are on their way out to the agencies so that, their families can have that. Of course, a lot of pantries will do other food drives. They also do gift drives, and they'll hand out gifts to their families. So there's a lot of efforts that go into making sure those families have the same opportunities to celebrate the holidays as everyone else.
Excellent. So I guess we're getting down to the nitty gritty part, and that's and maybe the best part. So if people are interested in donating, helping out, volunteering, how do they go about it, and what do you recommend they do?
Well, a couple of ways that they can do that. First of all, I would have them reach out to their local agencies, and they can access that by going to our website at mfbn.org. And we have a list of all of our agencies that we work with across the state with their addresses and the communities that they serve. So that's one way of finding out what needs some help in your area. And reach out to them, because they can either use food drives or the cash donations, or they may need volunteers, because these agencies are experiencing an increase in the number of individuals coming there, and they need more hands on deck to be able to help to prepare the food boxes, to stock their shelves, to help distribute that on their distribution days. So there's always different ways to do it. And of course, if you are a furloughed federal employee, this is a great way to get out there and support your community in some way, even though you can't financially afford to do that. So you can access our website at mfbn.org and see where all these agencies are at, or you can make a gift directly to us there.
Excellent. So is there anything else that we need to get out there for people? Oftentimes we try to think of the best questions we can so we can get people all cued in, but is there anything in particular that you'd like to add?
Well, I think a couple of things. The federal situation has really caused a lot of stresses and issues that we don't experience on a normal basis. And even though we may be almost at the end of the shutdown, it's going to take a while for families to recover, because they've been living either off of their savings or they've been not paying their bills, and those things just don't get picked up overnight. So there's still going to be a lot of stresses and pick up that they're going to have to do over the next few months. And of course, during the holidays, always that additional demands. I would really encourage anybody, if they have the capacity to do it, to make financial donations to their local pantries or to our organization, because $1 stretches such a long way for us versus them going out and purchasing that food. So there's a lot of different ways that they can help, but also realizing that we're in this for the long haul. It might be a few more months before things get back to normal again.
All right. Thanks a whole bunch. Well, that includes today's installment, concludes today's installment of the Blue Collar News, and we appreciate you all for listening. Thank you, Gayle, for your showing up today and helping everybody get lined out prior to the holidays.
Thank you so much, Jason, for your time.